Crippled, cornered, and out of options, Picard stages a gambit to trap Vatic and reveal her true motive. A gamble that puts the Titan in the crosshairs and forces Picard and Beverly to question every moral code they've ever held. Hello, entertainment enthusiasts. This is Ray, and this is the Fandom Realm. And today I am reviewing episode number 7 of season 3 of Picard, called Dominion. As always, spoilers abound, so just be aware. Of course, at the end of last week's episode, we had a situation where Riker had been taken by Vatic, but nobody knows that has happened. We also found out that the AI on Daystrom Institute's base was actually Data with some of his other personality. Now, so far, this season has been excellent, and I'm really looking forward to this new episode and seeing what is going to happen here, especially once they realize that Riker has been taken. And I'm also wondering if maybe in this episode we're going to start getting some revelations on what is actually going on with Jack as well. So we'll see. So with that, let's take a look at Dominion. Okay, so hopefully, guys, this is going to get us back on track and mostly on schedule for this week. Okay, so Chintuk Shipyards, huh? I wonder where that's actually at.
Record of Will Riker being taken into Starfleet custody.
Hey, there's Tuvok. I love Tuvok. He was one of my favorites.
When was your last contact with Admiral Janeway?
Not recently.
Okay, so they've gotten in touch with him to get some help.
Coordinated effort by the Changelings to infiltrate Starfleet in key positions.
I think you need to decide if he's good or bad first before you're going into this. All right, that makes it just a little suspicious.
I need not remind you. You've beaten me countless times.
Okay, so that seems to be good.
If you are willing to arrange a meeting, I can assist you in locating allies.
I sort of liked how the music changed there for just a second.
Acleon 7. I once underwent a procedure there to stabilize my neural path.
Okay, so what's with that?
A Vulcan would never go to Acleon 7 after the anti-Kolinar demonstrations.
Okay, so that's a big problem here, guys.
Meld on Voyager by my friend Tuvok.
Okay, so that is not Tuvok. I wonder what happened to him.
Me, Admiral.
Okay, so trying to figure out what is going on with Riker as well.
We're on our own.
And so with this first little section, we learn a lot in the opening of this episode as our gang has gotten in touch with Captain Tuvok. I'm happy to see that he's a captain and still in Starfleet. And of course, they were trying to get help. They're trying to find out about Admiral Janeway. And to me, they just gave away a whole lot of information that they probably should have kept to themselves so that he can't report back to the other changelings, just in case, he was a bad guy. And so they seem to let a lot out there to start with, just to be quite honest.
No mention of Will in custody. Damn it. They're on their way back here now.
Okay, so Worf and Rafi are off looking for Riker.
Expose this conspiracy to Starfleet. Frontier Day is just hours away.
Boy, that just keeps getting closer and closer.
Yes, or at the very least a tool to identify and root them out.
I really like Beverly having a central role in this season.
The solution may be biological, and targeting a species on biology alone is tantamount to genocide.
Boy, she just says that with such conviction.
Fine, we'll weigh the morality if and when this becomes actual.
All right, so he's going to make the decision in the end.
Requires genetic confirmation of my identity.
Okay, so that seems to be news to everybody.
Perfect doppelganger Jean-Luc Picard.
I am fearful of the same thing.
So it's looking like they need Jean-Luc for their plan.
Captain,
And here is Data.
Cruel to you.
And here's the problem, Admiral. You remember Lore?
And here is Lore, of course.
Self-righteous, self-proclaimed heroes spewing their moralities.
I always sort of like the idea of having Lore as an opposite to Data.
Clear partition between the Data and Lore personality profiles.
And so what happens if Lore takes over?
Maybe an effort to give Data the one thing he always wanted.
To be human.
Okay, the big thing here with this little section, I think, is, of course, Beverly and Picard talking about basically, hey, do we resort to some type of genetic warfare, sort of like was done during the Dominion War? Do we do something like that? You know, is tracing them genetically, creating something that just identifies the changeling race, would that be correct? Would that be good? Would that be bad? And he basically says, we'll decide later. So let's see what happens. And then I love the Data, Lore, all that.
Some research indicates an anomalous form inside Jean-Luc Picard.
Okay, that's sort of interesting that we're finding out about this.
Please, help me, Captain.
So what does the Soong research suggest?
And Lore prevails. You might lose Data. This time forever.
So nobody wants to lose Data, that's for certain. All right, now we're on Vadic's ship.
Frontier day is almost upon us. We are running out of time.
I am really interested in to see who her boss is.
Jean-Luc Picard were unexpectedly firm in their loyalty and
Listening to it, it makes it sound like it's other
don't
changelings.
anticipate them breaking in the time we have left.
Maybe other changelings. I don't know. It's just real confusing.
Your physiology is not special.
Because that statement right there means he is not.
For you and your kind will find your own existence meaningless.
He is not the same as Vatic. That's obvious.
Because you know half the ship's empty.
Okay, what are you suggesting there, Jack?
I hang out sometime, sure. Or not. It's fine.
I just love that they're sort of suggesting a romance here between them.
Is he flirting? Those eyes.
And so now he's got some type of telepathic ability.
It's charming. Please be subtle first. Touch my hand.
Okay, so he can hear what she's saying for some reason. Okay, Jack is definitely interested.
Why did you do that?
Okay, and so he's sort of in a state of confusion right now. Jack is having some issues. You know, we hadn't really seen a lot on this in the last couple episodes, since he was actually diagnosed with the same disease that Picard had. But with that, you know, he's trying to figure things out. He has talked to Beverly and about it, but with that, you know, why is he telepathic? What is there in his background that has made him able to do that? Also, the red eyes that we've seen before. It's just sort of confusing to me. I really hope this is Jean-Luc and Beverly's son, and it's not some type of
Compromise.
fake out.
Will.
The frequency matches the Shrike.
Vatic has him.
Okay, so now they're going to figure where Riker is.
Riker was good to me from moment one, and now he's in trouble, and
Now, this is one of the things I really like about Jack.
maybe we let the Shrike find us. I'd trade myself for him.
You know, he's confused. He's feeling very guilty for things going on.
Do you have any idea what it's like knowing that people have died, are dying?
And Jack, you probably should know he does know what it feels like.
Like there's something wrong with me.
Okay, so now he's going to talk to Picard about it a little.
Here. My head.
Okay, so something is going wrong. He knows it.
Right when it's fair, and when it's not, I'm the one who's cheating. But we have never had the advantage here.
And I always like that he knows who he is.
I think I know how we can get Vadic.
But he just gave Jean-Luc a very good idea, hopefully. So, open space. Somebody needs to explain that to me. Okay, so Vatic has come to find the Titan.
Jack's alive. Slippery.
The obsession with Jack continues. He's part of that plan.
We have disabled their warp core. They are incapacitated.
I just hope it doesn't mean he's got to die.
Prepare a boarding party. Shuttle, no transporters.
That's another thing there. Why no transporters?
Tick-tock, tick-tock goes the ancient clock. We are out of time.
She's going back to like TikTok. She really gets into that a lot.
Life signs.
Okay, so they're actually over on the ship now.
Darling boy, I just want to take you to a better place.
And Jack comes to basically confront them. Now, that whole section, there's a lot going on there. The little bit with Vatic and the ship coming up, to me, that's not huge. I do wonder sort of how Jack is going to play in this entire process. The big thing here is, as I've said before, I really love the fact that Jack knows Jack, and he doesn't claim to be somebody that he's not. You know, he knows that, you know, he's sort of maybe not the best person, or at least not the most innocent person out there. And he knows he has weaknesses. He knows he has strengths.
It'll be so much better to show you than to tell you.
Okay, this just all sort of creeps me out right here when she's talking like this. Okay, so obviously there's a plan going on here.
Ready? Now!
Okay. But, I mean, they can take a shot, that's for sure.
Alpha! Go!
Drop Bravo!
Go!
All right, very smart. Going to drop the shields and try to trap them. It's always a good thing when you're using your head to beat the enemy.
Drop Charlie.
And not in a literal way.
Drop Delta and Echo! Now! Now!
Okay, so it seems like everyone is trapped now.
Well, technically speaking, that worked perfectly. They're trapped.
Okay, so of course we do have Vatic now too, and that's important.
Get a lock. Something's interfering with the transporter.
And of course there's a problem.
Dad?
Okay, so Lore has taken over Data's body and it's causing trouble.
This time. You must really want my son.
Okay, this is what I've been waiting for. Vatic and Crusher.
You know, I took an oath to do no harm.
Oh yeah, Beverly, there you go. Make a threat.
You should know, I am rethinking that promise.
Okay, so
Blood to
Mama.
make a near perfect double of me.
Okay, so you know, Vatic doesn't look like he's right.
What do you want with Jack?
Me nothing.
Answer the question.
Okay, she's playing her own little game.
What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, I'm going to ask that too. I think that's one of the biggest statements out there.
War and your federation turned to genocide.
I mean, I really think that was a huge statement about why
distinction comes from?
Jack doesn't belong to her either.
Ability to mimic your blood. Hold my form.
Okay, so we're getting some information here, and sort of the big thing that sticks out is that statement by Vatic about Jack not being Beverly's as well. And, you know, I've been very fearful from the very beginning of this season that this was going to end up being like maybe a Star Trek 4, where you get a son that's revealed to Captain Kirk, and then that son's going to die. And, you know, when things like this are happening in this episode, it's sort of taking me back to, are they going to end up killing him by the end of the show?
How will you feel when she dies for you? Solid.
Okay.
Daystrom Station was my captive home.
All right, so she was at Daystrom.
Project Proteus, they called it.
Being experimented on in Project Proteus.
And whistling.
Okay, honestly, that's a little creepy to me, to be quite frank.
She whistled while she injected us.
Okay, so that's where the whistling comes from.
Spies, able to drop into any species and spread
So this is a Starfleet issue.
eternal pain for the ability to fool those who took everything from us.
You know, what happened to the good old utopian Starfleet?
Kept your son from you. If she could feel your loss.
You know, I'm really glad they're starting to explore the bad side.
Dad, shield regulators are failing. You have to beam us out of here now.
Okay, so Laura's causing all kinds of trouble here.
She's too calm. Too confident.
Okay, I'm glad Beverly noticed that finally.
And if we allow her to slip out, she will take
our son.
She seems to be getting exactly what she's wanting.
A threat. Anything she told us she wanted us to know.
You're right there, Beverly. You're right on it.
Face of her torturer. Why?
To remind herself of her hate.
And it's pretty deep hate. I mean, she was tortured.
You made me better. You did. You made me a better man of...
Okay, now, with what we saw right there, basically Vatic giving her background, and that she was basically tortured on Daystrom and experimented on by Starfleet. They were trying to make it so they could make a spy to put into any other government, to make them Klingon or Romulan or whatever, so they could be a spy. And so, you know, that's something that's very negative towards Starfleet and against those utopian ideas. And I, for one, I'm glad we're at least seeing what happens when Starfleet is bad.
Yes, I think I'm losing my compass.
A lot of people would too there, Beverly.
The moment we allowed her to board, we invited death onto this ship.
I'm just going to reiterate how much I love her acting.
Survival. Human nature, pal.
And, of course, we've got Lore there.
Allow me to level the playing field. The enemy of my enemy is...
Boy, I just get tingles right there.
Got full control of the ship.
Captain, we're losing control of our ship's security system. Get the force fields back now.
Imagining just how I would feel if I were Geordi in that instance. Okay, so Jack has no qualms about killing.
Jack, what should I do? Jack!
Turn around.
Okay, so Jack is in her head, basically, this time. Okay, that's definitely interesting. He is controlling her movements.
Here, Geordi. I will try. Accessing field regulation.
And Data is back, and he's going to try to help.
Was that you in my head?
Like, yeah, that most definitely was him in your head somehow.
100-year half-life.
That means, in theory,
Each of them should contain trace amounts.
we can track them.
Okay, so lots of things going on right here as well. Basically, let's see where to start. Jack and Sydney and that whole telepathic link, it's a little freaky about what's going on there. Going back to the whole discussion of, is he actually human? Is he actually Picard and Beverly's? Is it some type of plant? Who knows? Also there, of course, Vatic sort of doing the bad guy speech. She doesn't give away her whole plan, but she does give enough information out there talking about Project Proteus that's going to at least allow Beverly and Jean-Luc to come up with a way to track them here. And that's going to be important. It could be important in the future, too. Okay, why is the captain leading that group? That's what I want to know.
Lift deck 9. Lift deck 8.
They take the bridge?
Not taking the bridge. They're here. Weapons ready.
Riker would have never allowed Jean-Luc to do that. Okay, and I'll be honest, why aren't you looking for them? That might be the one thing that doesn't make sense in this whole episode.
Not out of cruelty, but mercy.
And I'll talk about it in just a minute.
Who knows that there are many ways to the same sea.
Okay, so she seems to have wanted the Titan as well.
Jack Crusher, where he most belongs.
Okay, so we're getting to it here.
Jack, my dear, if you can hear me.
What does she want?
It's time you learned who you truly are.
Okay, so who is he truly? That's basically what this entire show has been about. And I'm thinking we're probably going to see that at some point, maybe in the next episode in a couple days. That would be nice. Okay, basically not a ton there. I will say this is the only thing that disappointed me in this episode is how easily they took bridge. Okay, so with that, I do want to go through and give you some sort of thoughts and reactions. And basically how I'm doing that from now on probably is I'm going to go through and talk about my ups and my downs for the episode of Star Trek Picard. Now, first off here, I'm going to do my down because I really probably only had one real down for the entire episode, and that is, and I've already mentioned it, that is how easily they took the bridge. I really thought when the door opened and 7 of 9 sort of turned her back, and because the captain had already fallen off, I just don't think that was great writing. Just a little second there. I mean, I would have tried to figure out what was going on. And then, of course, the changelings came back up, formed. They were also watching the rest of the crew, so they didn't see them, so she could turn around. That just wasn't, I think, real well done. And don't they have control on the bridge where they could have shut everything down so they didn't have access to the bridge? Seems a little convenient to me, but that's all. And honestly, I think that's the only down I have for this episode. Now, let's talk about some ups. Okay, first up, really big up, and that is Tim Russ returning as Tuvok. I know it was bad Tuvok, changeling Tuvok, but it's still Tuvok and Tim Russ. I've always enjoyed his character, and I'm really glad they decided to bring him back. And I also will go a big up for how Seven sort of talked to him and tried to get him to reveal whether or not he was bad guy or good guy. And in the end, after a little bit of a curveball, she does get him to admit that he is a changeling because he answered a question very badly. And I enjoyed that. I thought that was very Star Trek. Okay, second, I think second up is this entire play with Data, with Lore, and sort of their being opposites of each other and trying to merge, and whether or not Soong was trying to get them all in one brain and work together to make Data human, which is what he always wanted to be. And so I really like how they were doing that. I am a little surprised that they sort of made Lore come out and be the issue that everybody faced and help the changelings take over the ship. That might have been a little iffy, but, it's one of those things where, they weren't planning on that, and it just there's always something that has to blow the plan up. And so I like all that. And another big up as well, along with that, is LeVar Burton as Geordi LaForge. He has been knocking it out of the ballpark so far, and especially in this episode when it comes down to knowing that your daughter is in trouble and begging for Data to come out and help. That was just extremely moving for me. And so I really, really enjoyed that. Okay, next up, and that's Beverly Crusher. Loving her so far, and the role she's taking. She's taking a much bigger role. She's stepped forward in the story here, and talking about the morals and justifications for taking lives and coming up with plans to target an entire species and different things like that. And I love how they're testing sort of that moral compass with her, knowing that she's also a mother who is trying to protect her child. And mothers will do almost everything to protect their child. When it comes down to it, is she willing to let that moral compass go to protect Jack? And I'm not really sure where that is going to go. Well, I think I would probably guess, but we'll have to see. I think the last thing I'm just going to talk about, and it's a huge up for me, it's sort of a two-parter. The first part, which is sort of minor, is I love this Jack and Sid pairing. They have very good chemistry, and we've never, I guess we have seen people start sort of court on a Star Trek series, but it seems a little bit novel for the two of them. Of course, we had Riker and Troy, a little bit of Picard and Beverly, but for two people like Jack and Sydney, I think it's sort of a novel approach to what they're doing. And then the really big up is what in the world is going on with Jack. They're finally starting to reveal some things. I think one of the biggest reveals here was that basically had a situation where Vatic said that Jack was not Beverly's, and that really sort of throws me. I love the fact that Picard and Beverly had a son, and I just don't want them to mess anything up here. I mean, I was so disappointed in Star Trek 4 when they killed off Kirk's son that I've just been so scared that's going to happen in this series, and I really hope they don't. All right, everybody, that is my ups and downs for this episode. I am going to give it a quick grade. I'm going to give it an A-. It's a very good. A little bit of a negative there. Just the pacing seemed a little slower, and sort of the tone. I don't know. It's filmed a little bit dark as well. So this episode, and I'm not saying those are necessarily negative. Those were things that I didn't feel as great about this episode as I have some of the ones that I've made like A. Okay, so don't think this is a big negative or anything like that. An A- is excellent. Now, with that, I hope you enjoyed this recap and review. Again, hopefully we're going to be back on track and get everything out on schedule for the near future. With that, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment below. And I'll see you next time on the Fandom Realm.